Welcome to video number 37. Getting closer to my 50. This ought to be an exciting video. As you know, my name is Rick Miracle, and the series is Freemasonry and Satanism. Book review 1 through 50. The last book we just did was The Serious Mystery, apparently about and authored by a master mason, and apparently it's about supposedly the Dogon or aquatic entities, whatever you want to call them, from the star system Sirius, which apparently if you go to the Egyptian pyramids, they align with the star system Sirius, and it cycles through 12,000 years of a cycle. And this particular video the Hudson Valley UFO sightings. Dr. Alan Hynek, Philip Brogna, and Bob Pratt. I'm familiar with Alan Hynek and Bob Pratt. I've read their books. So let's just jump in here. We've got a lot to get through. This is interesting. The bottom line is, I'll go to the back of the book here, and a chronicle of the sightings. Started around 1982, increased in 1983 around the Hudson Valley up in New York State, Connecticut, the whole area. And 1984 was still strong. 83 and 84 look like gangbuster video sightings. 85 and 86 they tempered off. So let's see what they have to say in this book. And as you can see, I put all my markers in them when I read them. Alright, here we go. I'm trying to be quick about this one. It's important information, and I think it aligns with all the other craziness going off in the world. So here we go. They seem to be connected by some type of structure, Valor said. The thing was a boomerang or a V shape. I could hear a faint, deep hum. It sounded like a factory with a lot of machines operating in a distance. Okay, moving on. Showing even more, he peered through the windshield, straining to make out some type of shape behind the lights. I thought to myself, I wish it would come closer so I could get a better look at it. And as soon as that thought went through my mind, the object began to descend and head straight for my car. I felt thoughts that weren't my own. I felt thoughts that weren't my own. But a kind of voice telling me not to be afraid. He said, there was a comment we were to hear a number of times as we investigated the Hudson Valley sightings. Suddenly the object turned away and the beam of light vanished, Hansen said. Page 8. So I'm just, like I said, skipping through this quickly to give you a gist of what's in this book. For those 3 or 4 years, there were literally thousands of sightings, police officers, newspaper people, professors, whole towns. And gigantic, like the movie At the End of the World with, what was his name? I'll think of it. But the craft blanketed the sky. The weather was clear and the sky was bright. They were listening to the radio and it began to hiss wildly. The static was so loud that Monique turned the radio off and they continued over the hilly countryside in silence. 3 or 4 minutes later, the object started moving away, backing off. I got a little upset. I said to myself, "Oh, please don't go. I want to look at you some more." At that split second, it stopped, made a complete turn, and then it was facing toward me. Then it started moving towards me, very slowly. In a lot of these UFO sightings, it seems like they can read the mind of the human watching them. And of course, a lot of people have read UFO books and seen the movies. And alright, the Danbury police knew about these sightings on the night of February 26th, but they would not cooperate with us. One officer said to us on the phone, "Stable people do not report UFOs." That was the attitude to change in 1984. As we eventually learned, the strange phenomenon has been part of the local lore for at least 30 years. Our research in local libraries shows that sightings of similar shaped objects have reported in the area in 1956, 57, 58, 76, and 78. Like the legend of Sleepy Hollow, which lies near the heart of the Hudson Valley Sightings area, the boomerang-shaped UFO is becoming part of the local history. It does beg to ask the mind, are they making all this up? But apparently, for 3 or 4 years, so many credible witnesses. Police stations in at least 15 communities throughout Westchester and Putnam counties were busy answering phone calls from people wanting to know what the strange object was. The North County News, another area newspaper, likened the public reaction that night to the panic that was created by the famous War of the Worlds, broadcast by Orson Welles in 1938. There we go. One of the witnesses was Linda Nicolay, a mother in her 30s. She had looked out the window at her home in Brewster at 8:40 that night and had seen a large lighted object hovering over Interstate 84 just west of her home. It was V-shaped and had rows of bright lights along its wings. She said, "So many lights, it was impossible to count them. They were all colors of the rainbow. The one much lighter and brighter in the center underneath." I'm just moving on quickly through certain tabbed paragraphs. It now seemed to be just above a truck that had pulled over the side of the highway. I was amazed to see how low the object was. The traffic was stopped, and people were out of their cars looking up at it. You could see people on the bridge pointing at it. I remember saying to myself, I wish I could get a better look at it. And as I was thinking that, it made a 360-degree turn. And see, there's another instance where this witness said this, that they thought they would like to look at it, and the UFO came closer. As if rotating on a wheel, stopped and started to float in my direction. Alright, another paragraph. At that point, I started to jog, and I seemed to have been almost directly underneath it, or maybe 5 or 10 feet behind it. I could hear a low engine sound, very finely tuned. It wasn't audible at all until it hovered very close. I could hear the sound as the object seemed to float into my backyard and come to another hover, almost at this exact same spot where I had first witnessed it. You can get this book at any bookstore probably, or online at any of the used book sites. Night Siege, Hudson Valley UFO Sightings. You wonder, so many people, you talk to them about different things and nobody knows about this stuff. Thousands of sightings over 2 or 3 years. On a regular basis, you could go out there and find them. In the Hudson Valley, west of New York City, of course, north. Alright, moving on. There was, for example, the doctor and his family who had saw a white beam of light come down from the object and then saw a small red object travel halfway down the beam and shoot it off across the horizon. They saw a small red object travel halfway down the beam. So there's a beam of light and a round red globe object was traveling down the beam and then shoot off across the horizon. I took pictures of 7 orbs. I suppose before this video here is over, I should go inside and put them as part of this video. I saw them in Orlando, about 7 in a row. One came. I've talked about this in some previous videos I made here. But I saw one come across the horizon. I thought it was a helicopter. But it didn't make any noise, and it was like an orange orb. And then I saw another and another. And by that time, I realized it was something odd. So I got my camera and took several shots. Anyways, back to the book. There was a family of 4 who became frightened as they watched the object hover over the road. They sped underneath it to get away from it, and as they did, a beam of light engulfed the car, causing one of the sons to feel a tingling sensation. There was an aircraft designer who saw the lights about 100 yards away suddenly break formation, with the outside lights moving to the inside and the inside lights going to the outside. So numerous times they would see one object and then see it split into several objects. And there were many people who saw the object simply disappear in an instant, often to reappear a moment later in a blinding flash of lights. Sounds to me like interdimensional travel. Alright, up to page 28, moving through this book. She felt as if she were being observed. The UFO now headed north following the Taconic Parkway, where it caused a traffic disturbance. Cars stopped on both sides of the expressway as puzzled motorists got out to look at the mysterious object drifting soundlessly overhead. Alright, then the craft seemed to stop. And again, I'm skipping over these things here. The different colored lights seemed to go off, and just as the light white seemed to stay on, it was hovering a bit. It was just there looking like it was observing us as we were observing it. The object appeared to be triangular in shape and had lights all around it, with 30 to 40 colored lights along the back alone. If there is such a thing as a flying city, this was a flying city. It was no small craft. It was huge. Villa, however you say his name, was excited, and he radioed headquarters, this was a police officer, to report what he had seen. He was told the station was getting quite a few calls. In fact, the police were becoming concerned because all the lines were being tied up by calls about the UFO. One of the most impressive sightings from the Taconic Parkway came from Bill Hale, at that time the chief meteorologist from the National Weather Corporation. He is a trained observer who is familiar with all types of aircraft, yet he could not identify what it was he saw that night. Whatever it was, he said, it was as large as an aircraft carrier. Wow. Thousands of these for 2 years, west of New York City and north of there. From Massachusetts, Connecticut, and North New York. Alright, moving on here. Soon it was about a 40-degree angle to me, away from the ground and away from the moon, which was full. The object slowed down, not to a stop, but nearly to a crawl, still moving. All the lights were changing color at a different time frame from the other lights, as if it had a rotating prism within the lights. No aircraft I had ever seen has a rotating prism for a light source. At this point, all the lights on the horizontal axis ceased to exist the way you would see the incandescency of a light shrink to zero luminous as it went out, in perhaps a fifth of a second. Alright, here we go. I proceeded about a mile or so. I passed a very large pond close to my home. I was startled to see the object hovering right above the pond, Miller told us. The pond was right next to the road, and I would say the object was about 20 feet from the road and no more than 120 feet above the water. This object was very large. When I first looked at it, I saw the white strobe lights that I had seen before. Then two searchlights went on, They were quite large, white in color, and they seemed to be coming from the southern end. These searchlights move across the surface of the pond as if the object were looking for something. These lights were very bright. I stopped my car to watch. As I was watching, the object swept a beam of light across the water. I could hear a faint swishing sound. Maybe the beam of light was sucking up some water. The object passed over our driveway. It was a kind of a V formation. One of the lights from the right side of the formation pulled away and backed off a bit. It almost seemed as if it was observing us. 10 or 20 seconds later, it pulled back into formation. And again, I'm up to page 38, skipping right through this. All of a sudden, it turned completely around. It was coming back. It got bigger and bigger, and 100 yards from the corner of my house, it broke formation. I saw two changes of formation. The outside came to the inside, and the inside came to the outside. I watched it till it disappeared. Alright, it then hovered there, another page 40, about 20 seconds, and I could see a mass that was very large. Behind it, behind the lights that is, I could see a large, solid object. It was still some distance away, then all of a sudden, just like that, it was over my car. It just appeared. I don't understand this part. It was as if it jumped from one place to the other. The lights on the object now went out one at a time, as if someone turned one off. Another page, 42. The object disappeared, and the Kuchins continued on their way. They drove over the Taconic Parkway, and a short time later they spotted the lights again. This time the object was hovering, Elaine said. It passed in front of me on the moon, passed in front of the moon. I saw a massive superstructure that seemed to be enormous, 6 stories or more high, very heavy. It suddenly moved and disappeared. At this stage of our investigation, now the author is speaking, we were getting more and more reports of the same type of superstructure behind the lights. A massive object about the size of a football field. As far as we could learn, there were no more sightings in Westchester County that night, but there were sightings a little later in Putnam County. Okay, another one. A UFO apparently worked its way to the west, stopping briefly over a number of lakes. Sounds like they were after water. Alright, it appeared to be hovering right over the ski slope, Gailey said. I pulled off to the shoulder of the highway and got out. One of the red lights had a beam on it, a red light that came out. There were quite a few clouds in the sky, and the red light was bouncing off one of the clouds. I said to myself, I wish this thing would come my way so I could get a better look at it. And as I did, it started drifting towards me as if it was responding to my thoughts. That's a key thing in this video that I'm making. Pay attention to that they seem to be able to read the minds. Still, government authorities tried to explain the sightings away in various ways. When evidence was provided to refute one explanation, another would be forthcoming. Now this was in 83, 4, 2, 5, and I asked myself, I said, you know, the air traffic controllers, thousands of them in that area, wouldn't they have noticed this, reported this, you know, got educated over time? And then I was reminded about Reagan, President Reagan. Fires 11,359 air traffic controllers in 1981. Just prior to this massive amounts of 3 or 4 year sightings. This was in 81. The sightings started around 82. There were sightings before, but they weren't this heavy. And when before has there ever been a union that has gone on strike or something, and there was no negotiation, there was no tolerance, and 11,359 air traffic controllers striking, and Reagan said here, you can look this up on the internet, they will never work in that industry again. So all those people who were educated at all those airports were replaced by trainees. Where they got them from, who knows. And it just Coincidences is what strikes me. And there's another coincidence we'll get to about this Reagan firing all the air traffic controllers. So here up in the New York area, highly populated area, thousands of sightings, all documented, radio stations, police stations, meteorologists, mothers and fathers and kids in the backyard. How many people know about this? Hence why I do the videos. Close Encounters with the UFO, Chapter 5, page 56. The witness was a man we'll call John Wright, because Wright is not certain what happened on that night, March 24, 83. He doesn't want his name revealed. It might have been more than just an ordinary close encounter. Since the late 1970s, millions of people around the world have become familiar with the term Close Encounters of the Third Kind because of Steven Spielberg's popular movie. However, probably very few people are aware that the term is part of a well-defined classification system that UFO researchers use. Alright, let's see what we got here. You got the daylight disk, and as the title implies, the sighting of an identified object during the daylight. You got the nocturnal light, represents the most common type of UFO report, not only in the Hudson Valley but throughout the world. And the radar visual case is usually more valuable to researchers than either the first two, because it is not only is it seen by one or more witnesses. The radar visual lighting and Mr. Reagan firing almost 11,359 people. Never to work again. And this brings us back to the night of March 24th, when John Wright and two teenagers saw the UFO directly over their heads, even as several dozen people were watching the lights from a restaurant 200 yards away. So, I can read more of these. One morning I was driving to work. I just skipped forward to page 78. WVIP in Mount Kisco had a news thing saying the UFOs were sighted again, and that over 260 people had called the radio station, and that some lady called and said, "Will you people just calm down? This is not a UFO, it's a bunch of ultralights flying." Alright. Ultralights hovering. Marks asked us if the object had been identified. When we said no, he responded, "You can't believe everything the officials tell you about what they are doing. It could be something that the government itself has going around. It's so obvious, you can't say that it's a secret. So many people have seen this thing. Whoever's flying this thing, whatever it is, whoever's in control of it, isn't conducting these flights in some far-off isolated place where nobody sees it. But what is it?" Boyd estimated the total span of the object is probably 140, 150 feet. When he got home, he phoned the police. I was told that it was ultralights in formation. The government just seems to continue to just dismiss and dismiss and dismiss. I think us people deserve better answers. Newcastle Police Sergeant George Lowry burst into the boardroom at 9:35 p.m. to announce a UFO was cruising over the building. Within seconds, the entire board, this is city board, and a dozen spectators were scampering down the stairs to catch a glimpse of the lights, but to no avail. The object had dimmed its light and veered off into the northern sky. So I ran outside and I looked up and I saw approximately 6 lights in a V formation, a wide V, not a narrow V. It looked like a formation of aircraft because it had the lead plane and a longer length of lights on one side and a shorter length on the other side. The tower, as we noted, is operated by the Federal Aviation Committee. The next day we phoned the FAA watchtower, He said the conversation with Patterson had never taken place. So what was that conversation? This is Lieutenant Patterson from Newcastle PD. Do you have any aircraft in our area? You mean lights? Have people been calling, reporting lights? This is the tower. Well, we got a good load of reports from residents in the area, and several of our officers saw it also. The people are getting somewhat upset about it, and I don't know what to tell them. Don't worry about it, they are most likely planes. What we saw were not planes, said Patterson. Just tell the people they saw planes, said the tower. Yes, we had something, but it turned away and we lost it. What was it? The people around here are seeing something. It's planes. At least that's what I was told. Anyway, there's nothing we could do about it. That's what the tower said. Peterson summed it up this way. If this thing can come in here and do whatever it wants, I want to know where the hell are our government defenses. Alright, up to 88. It had 3 sides on it. It was low. I saw the lights all the way around, about 1 or 2 feet apart. On each peak was a light. I saw a structure on the top part and the bottom, and in between was hollow. I could see right through it. The center was hollow. Only a solid part was at the top and the bottom. Another one here. I was driving, talking to my friend Jody, when all of a sudden, through the trees, I saw funny lights. Defate told us, that's her name. They looked kind of orangey yellow. It looked really strange. Jody didn't see them, but then all of a sudden, over the top of the trees, came this big, giant thing in the shape of a V. The lights weren't orange-yellow anymore. They were green and red. The thing looked pretty big to me. It went right over my car. There were tons of light. My daughter, who was 9, was with me. She described it as a huge Ferris wheel on its side. And there was a regular airplane coming toward it, but these lights were so different. The airplane looked so tiny compared to what we saw. Alright, so why don't I just end this here. One more. I parked near the fairgrounds, got out of my car. Mulholland told us it was about 50 feet above us. It was huge, like a spaceship, and it had 7 lights, and they weren't extremely bright. So you got the gist of that. There was just a lot of sightings. So now I'm going to go to the back of this book, because it was still a whole lot more. I could read sighting after sighting. Maybe one more here. We saw, this is page 131, we saw a semicircular formation of 9 white lights, each with a smaller red light behind it, pass over an intersection in town. His stretch of the formation showed the last 2 pairs of white and red lights, some distance behind the rest of the formation. From Brewster, Michael Miller and Jerry Sweeney reported seeing a formation of red and green lights larger than a football field pass 500 feet ahead. In a Peekskill, New York, Dana Vito said she and a friend had seen a triangular formation. Okay, let's get to the... You got this. There's more and more and more. Let's get this book and read it. Okay, high strangeness. I've jumped to the back to page 60. Almost from the start of our investigation, the UFO sightings in 1983, we have been getting reports of psychic phenomena, and the sightings themselves seem to be simply part of a broad spectrum of unusual happenings. In April, I was sleeping in my bedroom when all of a sudden I was awakened by a beam of light coming through the window. It engulfed my entire body and felt like it was penetrating through me. I felt it and was shocked as my entire body from head to toe was paralyzed. So we had most of this book, 160 pages sightings, and then in chapter 13 they move on to the close encounters of the close kind. I saw this image of a being with clay-like skin and large head with large eyes. He had no hair and no mouth. He assured me that I would come to no harm and said that I was being tested. He told me in my mind that he was part of a team of explorers studying the people. So at this point, I've prepared a little display for you from that description. In my last video, I showed more of these than I'm going to show in this one. But these are descriptions that people said that they had seen. And apparently from the Sirius B, they are aquatic creatures. And even the Pope wears the hat that has like the fish on it, the Dagon hat. And the African natives called him Dogon from the planet Sirius, or planet in the Sirius system. And this guy here is an ancient Greek symbol. What I wanted to point out is the square in his hand and the tools by his feet that are the Masonic Mason tools. And then the snake around him. And then the doctor snakes around the stick. And again, you got your tall blonde humanoid and your Orion gray. And Onus, Romatini, and Nomanini. Some names of the creatures, I guess, that communicate with people. And one description was they were blue with bald heads. And we're all familiar with the crop circles. And what a beautiful picture. Do really people think this is what's going to happen? Is this why they're murdering people in the Middle East? Economic destruction in the United States, joblessness, homelessness, government buying hollow point bullets, building FEMA camps, now immigration, thousands and thousands of young children and young people coming across the border, hopping on trains, I saw in the newspaper today, and then they're busing them to different cities, and Ashtar Command's going to come save you. Here's one of the descriptions of the craft. Is that a boomerang, or could be described from different angles? And of course we have the Anunnaki in the Egyptian temples with the elongated heads. Some say one of them looks like Obama. And the star system in the sky is supposed to be Sirius. And then there's a lot of star seed children who are apparently communicating with the aliens. And there's the Star Seed Awakening book here. A Syrian Starseed Tarot card. And again, the seemingly great artistic view, picture of what they... This guy looks Sirius from Sirius, with the aquatic look. And the skulls they're finding all over the world. And we know the Sirius cycle. Look at this video up if you want to. Put pause, write it down. It's a good talk by that professional, educated man who knows all about this stuff. How the pyramids in Egypt line up to Pleiades and Sirius and everything. And of course they have gigantic domed head on them, and apparently very breastly women. E.T. First Radio Contact. Go on that website. It's apparently a cache, and them are communicating with the Syrians, and they are coming to save you. So with that said, let's get back to the book here. What did this have to do with the Hudson Valley UFO? Nothing, we thought at first. So anyway, she glanced at the clock by the bed. 2 a.m. The voice was getting louder and louder. It sounded like gibberish. Then clear and loud, the voice said, "Do not be afraid. We will not harm you." Then through the skylight above the bed, she saw flashes of multicolored lights, and she could hear a low humming sound. It was as if something was just above the house. Finally, Ellen told her husband about the strange experience. This is when they got up in the morning. Apparently he didn't wake up. And he told her that he had dreamed about seeing a UFO and a beam of light and being taken aboard. Alright. After the sighting, he had a reoccurring dream about being taken aboard the UFO and being put in a chair. We questioned him several times, and on one occasion he consented to be hypnotized. Once he was put into a trance, he told the following story. I went to bed early and had this dream. In the dream, the same thing happened, but this time the kids and I were pulled up into the UFO. One minute I was looking at it, and the next minute we were inside, and there were these guys. There were about 5 of them. They were working around some kind of strange panel. They were about 5 foot 4 inches tall and had big heads and small round mouths. It's got a big head. They had on black suits with button-ups and down the front. One guy came up to me and said, "Don't worry, we won't hurt you." They told me it was some kind of test and that they were doing some kind of study of the people in the area. They said their mission to our planet was peaceful and scientific one. The inside of the ship looked like a mass of computers with all different color lights all over the place. It hurt my eyes to look at them. They moved me and sat me in the some type of chair and did something to me that with different machines up and down my body. They kept telling me that they would not harm me and the kids, when all of a sudden, boom, I was back in my Jeep with the kids. The kids are crying. They want to get out of there, and the object is drifting slowly away to the north. So I could go more about this. I'll just jump to this end here. A scientific study. The UFO shape or light pattern seen, 43% were boomerang and 57 were V-shaped. So a boomerang and a V-shape is pretty similar. So I suppose you're depending upon your angle. In this case, all the witnesses got a look at the UFO, agreed that it was large. They also agreed that it was low, probably less than 500 feet from the ground. 33% of the witnesses reported hearing only a faint humming sound or nothing at all. Many remarked on how huge the UFO was and said it blocked out part of the sky. One witness commented, "I was surprised that something that massive could be so quiet." Most of the witnesses said the object moved so slowly that it crawled across the sky. Nearly 1/3 said it then sped up and moved away at great speed. So it couldn't be a hot air balloon. Did the object hover? 78% said yes. And hot air balloons can't hover. Even a faint breeze will blow them. All right. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. Let's see what we got here. One more of my little stickers. Page 185. Even long-time UFO skeptic Philip Crass was puzzled by the Hudson Valley Sightings. Commenting on them in August 1983 issue of Omni magazine, he said, "I've been investigating UFO sightings for 17 years and have yet to find an indication of unknown or extraterrestrial phenomenon. It would take a lot to convince me, but it could be that for the first time in 17 years, this is an unexplainable case." So for 3 or 4 years, here's another one. The boomerang-shaped UFO had been seen for many years and in other parts of the country. Sightings of an object of similar description have been reported in the United States as far back as 1951. There were reports in 56, 57, 58, 1966, and in almost every year since 1975. Arkansas, Missouri, Arizona, hundreds of witnesses. So it seems to me, what I've said before, that since the nuclear explosions, World War II, this stuff is picked up. So that's enough of that, and I thought I'd move on to something else here that's related to it. ET contact and the emerging new human. Nexus magazine. This is fascinating. The Australian Close Encounter Resource, Network has a database of 2,000 accounts of human encounters with non-human intelligences. Family, bloodlines, and genetics appear to be linked to most experiences. So it appears that selected people with particular DNA, generation after generation, are having these human encounters with non-human intelligences. The truth is that the evidence of its reality manifests as transformational shifts in core beliefs emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. So the truth is that the evidence of its reality manifests, which means grows or avails itself, as transformational shifts in core beliefs emotionally, psychology, and spiritually. So as the people's thinking changes, these encounters with non-human intelligences increase. So we know they're trying to bring around a new world order. We know there's all kinds of symbols on TV. And we know they're trying to make a social change. And even the politicians are saying, your children are not yours, they're our children. So the truth is that the evidence of its reality manifests, so it increases, as transformational shifts in core beliefs and people changes. So as people change, apparently the increase in human encounters of non-human intelligences increase. Sorry I had to spit that out so difficultly. UFOs in particular get here at much faster than the speed of light and allow their alien visitors to interact with us in a variety of ways. It has been confusing because the craft can be so very different, and the beings reported can be so different. It simply suggests that there are a great many civilizations out there interacting with us. There's just a lot here I thought was important. I'll try to get through it here. But it kind of aligns with that book, Night Siege, the Hudson Valley UFO Sightings. This is current. This is 2013. The book here was written and signed by the author, too, by the way. I get these used books online. You never know what you're going to get. 87. Copyrighted. So the sightings were from 83, 84, 85. 83, 84 were the highest ones. In 87, they wrote the book. And this is 2013 in Nexus magazine last year. A whistleblower geneticist, still not willing to be named, sent a letter to Lloyd Pye, author of Intervention Theory Essentials, around his investigation into the Star Child skull. That would be those elongated skulls. And there's crystal skulls. By certain methods of DNA dating, one can tell numerous genes have been recently added to the human genome. If workers in my field were to say such things openly, we would be ostracized and forced to live in a tent. Any work along these lines would be rejected without any form of appeal. So what can we do? I'd like to give credit where credit is due. I'm going to read so much of this. But there's the author. And you can put pause on that. Mary Rodwell, 2013. Website is www.acern.com.au. And edited from her presentations, Children's Contact with Extraterrestrial and Interdimensional Being at the Nexus Conference 2013. So look her up, and let's give credit where credit is due. I just want to give you a gist of what's going on out there with the intelligence communities of our governments that know all this, of course. Black Op Project, CIA, FBI, NSA, Israeli intelligences, UK, Russian. They know all this stuff. So I make these videos, if you've been watching them, so that you know all this stuff. That's why I do it. I got an email recently from somebody thanking me for making these and putting them out there for free. But I feel if we the people don't get educated, we're not going to be free anymore. With recent discoveries regarding the human genome, the puzzle becomes even more surprising. Molecular biologist Dr. Ken Miller from Brown University, Rhode Island, identifies humanity as not resulting from natural selection. Is he trying to say we were made in some test tube by some aliens? But representing a rapidly transformed creation with a unique genome. He suggests that over the last 200,000 years, segments of the human genome have been fused, leaving trace evidence of extraction, inversion, and splicing back to single genes. So somebody's messing with the humans. I guess they want us slaves and them masters. They're not telling us the truth or what's going on. We have to dig for it. One night, I had this intense feeling before sleep. I wrote in a process where I had little control, something way beyond my present understanding and contrary to everything I had been taught. I said the human race had been created by extraterrestrials. There was genetic manipulation of human and ET DNA to create another species. The DNA of the Star Kid has tenfold of the amount of information. Things such as telepathy, manipulation of time and space, nonverbal communication are all conscious abilities of these new children. And it is a natural learning skills and abilities are more advanced. Many physical alterations have been occurred in their bodies to make them physically stronger than that of a human child, a child with a higher percentage of human genes. Their molecular structure allows the body to vibrate faster. Everything is accelerated, including their immune system's response as the DNA is encoded to recognize all foreign objects. So they're saying the human beings are changing. And there's more of this as we move along. The rise of the star children. John White, a conscientious researcher, uses the term Homo neotis to note the creation of a new species of human who is more than multidimensionally aware. This phenomenon is also understood by such terms as star children or indigo children. So this is in 2013, this is public. Thousands of sightings were back in 82 and 83, since 1957. And now the children, which if they had altered or abducted and seeded humans, thousands, millions of them since then, I suppose these new star seed children would be showing themselves. And apparently they are, according to this article. That's why I thought it was so important. The phenomenon is also understood by such terms as star children or indigo children. This is a race of beings on this planet. There is a race of beings on this planet, visually and physically no different to most humans, who are here to guide and awaken to terrestrial consciousness. Moving on, and I'm not reading all this. I highlighted so much because there was so much important stuff here for me to tell you. I really suggest you go to the author's website and get the whole story. Paul Dong and Thomas Raphael, in their book China's Super Psychics, also put forward the notion that there is a different breed of children now populating the planet. These children are capable of moving objects by thought and can even change the nature of DNA in a similar process. More recently in China, a boy was born with blue eyes that apparently glow like a cat's eyes, and he can see and even write in total darkness. Genetic manipulation, you suppose? Meanwhile, over in Mexico, it has been reported that some children are able to see through various parts of their body. See through various parts of their body. In her personal life, she had had a near-death experience, and again, I'm just skipping over stuff. An instant healing and encounters with beings whom she calls cone heads. Didn't we see cone heads? We saw them in Egypt. There's one. The aliens here seem to have a cone head. Syrians. cone heads. Cone heads. Cone heads. It's a different book. Even the aquatic creature there has a cone head. Supposedly from Sirius. They're aquatic on that planet. They live in the water. I suppose they came here in a spaceship full of water, which would have been probably easier to travel around in. You would be more buoyant. All right. She acknowledges the intergenerational link, as her father and son have also had encounters. So again, this stuff seems to be genetically, which makes me also wonder, with the new medical health care plans and computer systems, and they want to get a sample of everybody's DNA. Is there some malevolent, sinister purpose to all that? To find out who's related to these guys and who's not? Just me asking my crazy questions. It's a combination of genetically improved bodies in combination with souls from different places in our universe incarnating into these improved bodies. The souls have different frequencies, vibration, depending upon their evolutionary status. These play a role in the activation of DNA in a particular body. Okay, moving on. I believe that genetic modification is occurring right now and is actually producing a new human. The hybrids are altogether a new species of human. So they were here without a doubt in the Hudson Valley. Millions of people in the area. Hundreds of million, 50 million, I don't know. And, so apparently years later, we have the hybrids are altogether a new species of human. This is shown to be exponentially increase in autism, ADD, and indigo children. A new genetic architecture allows them to see the world in multidimensional fashion. You're going to love this soon. Okay. That's a lot of stuff here. Hope you're enjoying this. In the classroom, learning is much faster and normal for them. I believe they already know what's being taught. This is your new humans. It's a transgenerational information. The information is encoded within the atomic structure of the DNA molecule. The modification of the DNA is more the remodeling of the genome to make dormant regions accessible again. Neil Gould, a UFOologist, experiencer, and author of Close Encounters of the ADHD kind, as a child experienced expanded perceptions and extraterrestrial encounters. The difficulty was in trying to cope and understand a limited and limiting third-dimensional world. So he was having difficulty coping with our world, where we talk like I am in three-dimensional reality. Many adult experiences have children with such labels, and these children often have had interactions with spirits and interdimensionals. Have these individuals been programmed with abilities not yet understood? Human upgrades. Leah could remember many of her past lives and had conscious recall and encounters with many different intelligence and ambassadors. So I said, like in my last video, I'm just not a big fan of planets out there with super societies greater than ours on Earth, with other human-type beings far advanced than us. I think Earth is a unique creation, and of course we are in my opinion, electrical computer bodies with souls inside. And Leah could remember many of her past lives. And this is stuff that's in the Bible, like Jesus casting demons out of other people. And demons were entities that were evil souls and would possess people, like when you saw the movie The Exorcist. Just trying to put this thing in a logical reality, and not this fakey kind, where they got all these beings that are going to come save us. Who's killing all those people in Iraq right now, in Syria and Afghanistan? You know, who killed all the American Indians and South Americans and caused World War I and World War II? I think it was some higher level entities on this planet that are basically parasites, or using humans as slaves. And it's my opinion. I was 8 when I discovered I could heal with my hands. I connected to the various ETs, and they explained what things meant and taught me what I was seeing. The energy beings, again, ghosts, spirits, taught me I was close to one in a previous life, and once saw him out of his suit, solid form. I could see white around him. There are certain categories of ETs, such as extra-dimensional. Some are wanderers. They can move through dimensions. You have to be careful how you interpret them. Some work for the ET, some are guides. Humans are natural empaths. So we are natural tools for them to come into our body and live through our body. Humans are natural empaths. So we're like radios to them, or something they can live through. Witness testimony such as Tracy Taylor and Lee, for example, mentions that we are evolving into a more dimensional conscious human. And from Homo Noctis we will upgrade to Homo Novus, the new man. Alright, now that I'm going to said that, I want to move on to something else. So they say that we're being upgraded and we're evolving into a new man. Well, I found this on the website recently, on the internet. Chem Defense, www.chemdefense.com. So what is Chem Defense? Okay. Discover what's really behind your loss of energy, your poor health, and why you really can't lose weight. Chem Defense, Enviro Shield. Here are just a few recent headlines about environmental toxicity. How toxins make you fat. The perils of plastic. The toxins that threaten our brains. Chem Defense. And then it shows here, are chemical toxins making you sick? Anyways, are you constantly fatigued, have a persistent cough, asthma, flu-like symptoms, aching, trapping? Remember, we got new model humans being created here. Here we go. Toxins in our environment. Cancer in our bodies. Okay, here's the point of this whole thing. Matt and Lisa Novick, 2 nutritional and fitness experts from the Southern California, wondering the same thing. Is the sky spraying intentional? Obviously, you're seeing that picture. Are they intentionally putting something in our bodies? Little medical particles? Think about this. There's sky spraying everywhere. They've got these entities and these sightings, which if they're not malevolent and they're benevolent, why aren't they doing something about who's spraying the humans like they're bugs? Just wondering. So, they're doing a lot of sky spraying. You can go outside wherever you live and you can pay, if you pay attention, you will see it. An independent analysis of our atmosphere has identified toxic chemicals, aluminum oxide particles, arsenic, barium salts, barium tinates, calcium, caluminium, dissected human red blood cells. Why are they putting dissected human red blood cells in that stuff they're spraying? Dopamine, you can look this up on the website, chemdefense.com, chemdefense.com. Lead, mercury, mold spears, mycoplasma, polymer fibers, silver, strontium, submicron particles, unidentified bacteria, uranium. I'm just saying, this article book here is saying they're remodeling people. EnviroShield, they're selling this so you can get rid of these, this is some kind of drug they sell, or, here we go, EnviroShield. So, well, I'm not trying to sell EnviroShield, I was just interested about the other things on the site, with the sky spraying picture they had there. It doesn't take a PhD in biology to understand that when the human body is under heavy environmental stress, it's bound to suffer. All this warring, all this economic suffering. And then, of course, you got the... I am from Canada, but lots of chemtrails going on in Japan, too, in my other home. So cleaning and clearing chemtrails is all right in my book. Love the product, and it works as you guys say. And he's got a picture of the sky spraying there. Just thought it was worthy to note that this thing is talking about the upgrade in the human, the changes in our DNA and all that. And I'm just wondering, are they spraying stuff up there it's getting in our body, then they're sending out radio signals to control us like robots, modify our human DNA. Humans are evolving into human novus, new humans. We are in transition, and the human novus has multiple jobs, mainly to make sure humans survive, everything to prevent destruction and wake people up. Homo sapiens will eventually become human novus. So us people are going to become new humans. Those born after the year 2000 are human novus, notius. These children are literally the next step. So children born after the year 2000. These people in 1983, 4, or 5, thousands and thousands of these ships were sighted, and close encounters, and beaming people up and surgically doing things to them. And now here we have in the year 2000, these children born after the year 2000 are Homo neotis, new children. These children are literally the next step, and they know things that Homo sapiens never dreamed of. They will help us to open up to ETs, so they're preparing us to accept ETs. Who are ETs? And in this article, they even have a picture. So one can say that something strange is going on. That's a mouthful. Okay, here, the link to extraterrestrial appears to expand in the feelings of profound and deep emotional pull to an extraterrestrial heritage. Sometimes this link is more significant to them with their human family than it is articulated by their children as well as adults. So the family soul transfer. In communicating with town councilor Simon Parks in the United Kingdom, I discovered that he feels the same way about the Matid family. Simon told me that the Matid are his real family, and he has a Matid mother. So he's born a human, but he feels more like these Matid people here. This illustration of the energy beings, one of the non-human intelligence, which helped to create the Homo sapiens. That's what this article says. These people created humans. So why are they putting out these articles like this? Why are they putting out all this propaganda? Why are they changing the mindset and the thinking of us humans all over the world? Now you know why I do my videos. So people can get their heads on right and think. Is this really what people think are coming while they're mass murdering and throwing Iraqis in a ditch and machine gunning them to death? Methinks not. I believe what I see, not all this beautiful stuff and aliens with giant breasts. I suppose some simple-minded people would be, oh, I can't wait for this. I'm going to ascend. However, one very profound and identical experience recalled by both Paul and Simon relate to soul transfer of consciousness into the matid form on board the spacecraft. So they were abducted or taken aboard. Paul related experiences where he sometimes evaporated or pixelated into the matid form on the spacecraft. Simon also commented that his soul consciousness occasionally moved into the matid form on the spacecraft when he was helping with humans and then transferred back again into his human container. Leah, who I mentioned before, describes how our soul consciousness defaults into a form container while leaving the human body. My actual body was not human. It's really an izonai. Your soul remembers a favorite form and wants to duplicate it. So every time I travel in an out-of-body state, I look izonai. I don't know what type of creatures these are. In my first pregnancy, and I'm just skipping around here, as you know, a voice told me my children are not mine. Wow. Whose are they? They belong to no one. My daughter gets important messages in ET languages. I showed her your presentation, The New Human, for Exopolitics, Great Britain, 2010. In the presentation, a lady does healing and writes in ET languages. Kathy has healing abilities, speaking healing words in ET languages to purify water. I noticed it tasted different afterwards. She said her mission is to purify water and to help her family awaken. The water really does taste better. Alright, we're almost done with this. Hope you find this stuff fascinating. Just reporting on what I read. This may explain the phenomenon such as clairvoyance, intuition, spontaneous and remote acts of healings, self-healing, unusual light auras around people, mind influence on weather patterns, and more. Is human DNA with such properties expanding human awareness through the quantum field of consciousness? I'm just going to continue to say it and say it again. Why are they spraying us? Why? I think the increased resonance frequency from both space and the Earth is pushing the DNA into some sort of a three-dimensional configuration so that dormant genes and the so-called junk DNA are aligning and thus become activated. And as an aid to our evolution, like a time-activated evolutionary step. But that's an hypothesis. Well, my hypothesis is you got these guys. You got these sightings. Undisputed. I mean, we're talking thousands of people over 3 or 4 years. Every day up there in the Hudson Valley area. You got Egyptian pyramids aiming at the stars and the hieroglyphics. You got skulls. And you got sky spray. And you got these thing about star children and the new human race. I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but methinks it's all connected. Star languages come from a place outside of the universe. My helpers guide and teach me. They are here to help me with the awakening. Come on, people. Is this what people think is reality? While they're murdering people all over the planet, then the Georgia Guidestones in Georgia, Florida, saying they want to reduce the population to 500 million, so 6 billion people have to die. Are these people planning that? The girls with the nice breasts planning that? The dudes on the Egyptian hieroglyphics, the guy who looks like Obama, the Anunnaki in the Bible planning that? Many contactees have drawn strange glyphs and symbols even when they're as young as 3 years old. They are light formulas and cosmic language transmissions. It's hard for me not to sing, as singing the frequency is an integral part of transmission. Okay, we're almost done here. When I saw Tracy's art, I was traumatized. I felt sick and felt like I was having a nervous breakdown. The art knocked me to my feet, metaphysically and spiritually. An internal implosion, a light going on. So somebody saw some of the art that these star childs were drawing, and this one person saw it at a convention, and a light going on. The switches pulled flashbacks, experiences. I sensed and understood something I should have had knowledge of, and now I was awaking spiritually. It was something I had forgotten, but something I had been trained for. I was able to switch on a channel using my hand as a barcode scanner with my third eye. Your third eye is here. Your pineal gland is supposed to have the size of your thumbnail and full of water and crystals, and communicates with the spiritual world when you pray and all that. And of course, this is all biblical stuff. God created people and 10 Commandments, and now we're getting all the decadent and selfish and chaos and mayhem and anarchy programming propaganda. So something's more lining up with the Bible's point of view and Lucifer and the bad people. Well, I don't know what happened. The iPad thing just conked out. Maybe my battery's getting weak. Let me finish this. I had forgotten, but something I'd been trained for. I was able to switch on a channel using my hand as a barcode, scanning with my third eye, to receive the equivalent of several hundred terabytes and upload them. I understood its potential for humanity. I could interpret codes, ciphers, signs, geometric formulas, blueprints, designs, model encryptions, meta-languages, hieroglyphics. She could understand those things. Schematics. So, there you have it. Look up that article. There's more here. Don't be afraid. They are normal and more human than you realize. Why not open up to them? Yeah, why not open up to them? Yeah, why not open up to them? That's what it says here. What I've learned from the human race is something dire must happen to make the changes. It is not the end of the world. They won't let that happen. They love us unconditionally and will risk their lives to let us live. They are not going to help, not take over. They are going to help, not take over. The Homo Nuevus walk among us. They are not in great numbers. They try to minimize their presence. So that's my story. I'm trying to connect all the dots to Freemasonry, which Freemasonry is hugely into the hieroglyphics and the gods, Isis and Osiris and Ra. And the eagle represents the goat god, Mendez, as we did in the last video, and Lucifer is part of the religion of the Masonic lodges, and the Rosicrucian mentioned it a lot. So what is the truth? Let's say here, I'm a third grade teacher at a public school, and I've been teaching for the past 16 years. After the year 2000, kids started acting differently. A few years ago, I started getting the kids born after the year 2000 who are even stranger. These kids are different. The indigo crystal child concept is true. This is a teacher from Australia wrote in a letter. They are purportedly the next level in human evolution. They are very intelligent and have superpowers. They are often mislabeled with psychiatric diagnosis and attention deficit with hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, or attention deficit disorder, ADD. Sadly, when they are medicated, the indigos often lose their beautiful sensitivity, spiritual gift, and warrior energy. Warrior energy. About 1/3 of each class is crystal and channel what you can call spirits. I could read more, but you get the point. What is true? What do they know that they're not telling us? And why are they preparing for World War III? Or why are they probably going to have World War III? Why are they spraying us? And this company here is offering chem defense chemicals you can buy to get the toxins out of your body. Why? Lots of questions. And hopefully these videos will help you, and I'm learning more as I do this, and help us figure out what the heck is going on. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.